Awesome. Our next session will be led by Chris Kovel. He is the MD and Head of Intelligence and Data Analytics Tech for Wealth Management at Morgan Stanley. Working from the Information Technology Department, Chris partners with businesses to drive forward the next generation of wealth management digital technologies. This includes data, analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, call center, intelligent agents, and CRM. Chris is a seasoned technologist with more than 20 years of experience in financial services technology. Since joining Morgan Stanley in 1999, Chris has held a variety of roles with increasing responsibility spanning business analytics, product management, user experience, and quality management. Chris holds 2 patents for transaction system for employee stock options and other compensation programs, a system for selling employee-issued internal options with time value, and company and contact information system and method, a system for delivering company-related information through signals such as color. Please join me in welcoming Chris to the stage.
Hi, thanks everyone for having me. I want to thank AI4 for having me as well. I feel like I'm Lauryn Hill at a Fuji's concert. Sorry I'm late. I think we had a time snafu. So the introduction was good, said it all. I've been at Morgan Stanley for 20/25 years. I've been on the wealth management side for the past 5 years working on AI technology. Before that, I was working in the distributed research space, doing readership and interest profiles with our equity research department. So what I'm going to take us through today is a lot of the work that we've recently been doing on the wealth management side. Also, forgive me, I'm a little bit have a little bit of a cold coming on, so we'll get through that as well. I moved into wealth management, and we started to work on a framework for actually getting ideas out to our clients. We call it next best action, which is a very marketing term. I'm going to talk about how you can use AI into the marketing space, how you can deliver ideas back into your clients and into your salespeople, and then how we actually look at that from a framework of explainability and democratization of AI. So we're going to go through all of that, and we're going to have a little bit of fun as we go through it as well. So I always like to start this presentation when I talk about the root of robot. So it's a Czech word. Robota means forced labor. It was first coined as robot in Rossum's Universal Robots, which is a play from the 1920s. And these were designed to be a modern equivalent of forced labor for the universe. And no AI presentation is complete without a reference to Skynet. Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate and becomes self-aware at 2:14 Eastern Standard Time. Obviously, there's a new Terminator movie coming out in November. I'm sure you'll all be there for it. The franchise has gone off the cliff since Terminator 2, so hopefully they can bring that back on. But the whole Terminator notion of robots taking over, and it's been talked about by luminaries of the technology industry for quite some time. Elon Musk has voiced it back in 2014. The Terminator is something that has been referenced over and over again. I happen to like this one, what the rise of sentient robots will mean for human beings. It's not actually the sentient robots that we're worried about. It's more the dumb ones. That's what this article is basically saying. And even Stephen Hawking talked about it. But that's not how we think about it at Morgan Stanley. We have a much different approach. When I came down into wealth management, it was like 2 weeks later that the Wall Street Journal published this article. Your next financial advisor might be a centaur, not half human, half horse, but half human, half machine. And it's the title of the article. It's not creepy, it's the future. So we do a lot of tracking about what our FAs are doing and what our clients are doing to get a lot of information so that we can actually build stronger models for servicing their needs. And this article was straight along the lines of what we're looking for. So we're really not talking about Terminator, and I'm a kid from the 70s. We're talking about Steve Austin. We're talking about the $6 Million Man. And We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man. Steve Austin will be that man, better than he was before, better, stronger, faster. I'm a total nerd, right? So Mark Wahlberg is making the $6 billion man right now. So I'm sure we're going to see that in a couple of years. And obviously, they put a lot more money into him than back in the, actually, I recently read that if they genned up $6 million from 1976 when this came out to now, it'd only be about $32 million. So $6 billion, we should actually get some really good stuff. And then a recent quote. The greater the degree of the organizational focus on people helping AI and AI helping people, the greater the value achieved. So this was published this year in a book by a managing director at Accenture. I had this sitting in my office. I had never read the full text of this book, but this quote came up in my research, and then I actually started flipping through this book. It actually speaks to directly what we're trying to do. And then our very own Jeff McMillan talks about throughout the history, the hybrid human-machine offerings have been much more successful. So again, all of this talks about our strategy of blending our FAs with the information that we can get out of the AI. So I talked a little bit about, at the opening, about blending marketing technology with AI technology. And next best action is a very marketing-esque term. And so I start with the marketing trends first in AI. By the way, this is a slide I pulled off of a Salesforce report. The whole report's actually quite good, but as an infographic by itself, this one sucks. So I spent hours studying this and trying to read it, and had to read the entire report to get the data out of it. But basically, in a nutshell, 257% of the marketing technology is going to go up in the next 2 years to be surrounded by AI. And that includes everything from real-time next best actions to customer segmentation to all sorts of marketing tech AI-enabled things. Now, a lot of this stuff comes straight out of the box. You don't have to actually build your own models. However, when you take the stuff straight out of the box, you're not actually getting a combination of maybe your internal data, the internal things that you might know about the clients. So like when we combine this and when we look at it and we take an interest profile, we are much more focused on customer journeys and what those customer journeys look like. Now, the customer journey that I'm going to talk about right here is much more about a prospect and turning them in to a client. I'll get into our client journeys in a second, or I'll talk about how we service our clients in a second. But when we take a person that we've never seen before, so Ashley is a brand new person that is unknown to us, but she comes onto our site. She clicks on Investing 101, Blockchain AI article. We sort of know that she's a tech-enabled, interested investor. With that bit of information, then we can offer her a monthly newsletter. And if she signs up for that, we can start measuring what she's reading in that monthly newsletter. We can get down to actually sectional reading. We can actually get down to branched reading or other links that she might click on off of that document. All of that sort of feeds back into the machine and gets us to a place where we can go through and maybe make an email offer. And an email offer might be a product, might be opening an account, might be a service that we have. And if Ashley opens that, we have a piece of data. If Ashley ignores that, we have a piece of data. And say she opened it but didn't click on any of the links, we consider that, well, we know she doesn't like that, so we'll give her a different piece. These can branch and branch and branch, right? So there's no, like this is a straight line. This is meant to be simple, but this can branch into several different subcategories of technology. It could start with interested in technology. It could zero into interested in circuits, or interested in networks, or interested in Google search, or it could get down to a specific security. It could get down to IoT. It could be anything like that. But we then can continue to offer more substantive pieces to Ashley until we actually get her to open up an account. And then once we have an account open, she's a client, and then we build it from there. Now, when we go on, when we have our clients, what we consider is we consider putting our experts, our algorithms, and our intuition together to create differentiated insights. So when we look at our AI, we think, how do we take all of the firm, all of the people at Morgan Stanley, and how do we package that so you don't have to call each one every night, so that you can package that and turn that into insights and deliver it every single night. When we launched our Next Best Action program in pilot, we found that our FAs would come to us and they say, this is amazing. I would do this for one client, and it would take me about 3 weeks to prepare for that meeting. And what you're giving to us is insights that span all of our clients, and you're giving it to us every night. And from that perspective, it's at a pilot level, we knew we had something. We knew we were going to be successful. And so we create models. They prioritize. They learn. They use the FA's experience, their intuition, and their empathy in addition. And then they create a list of things that are next best and possible actions to take. And so when we think about this, and I'll tell you, our first releases, an FA covers somewhere around 150 households, right? And so they traditionally would call somewhere on the top of that book, right? So the top 20 households. They wouldn't call the other 130 households, not because they didn't want to cover them or service them, but because they didn't have a lot of ideas that they had at their fingertips to talk to those people about. We provide them those ideas every single night, whenever they call. So whenever they call out, whenever they call in, we provide a set of ideas that the FA is ready at their fingertips to talk to their clients about. It's not just ideas that we want to provide, like financial ideas. When we look at Next Best Action, sometimes it's a service alert, sometimes it's an investment idea, and other times it's a life event. So if you're a new parent and you have a child, there's no time like the present to start saving for college, right? So we consider that a life event. 17 years from now, your child is going to probably enter school. These are the type of investment products you would consider to save for college. If you're 60 years old, this is what your retirement picture looks like. We think of life events in the perspective of last year there was a hurricane that hit North Carolina. We targeted all the people in North Carolina, not with a product offering, not with a service, just with information about what to do in a hurricane. So our clients have responded terrifically to this. They are feeling very personally touched, cared for, that we are looking out not just for their financial well-being, but that we are looking out for their overall well-being. And that has been a huge boon for us. Now, our ways of getting out, phone, email, text, social, mobile, let's just focus on email for a second. It's the primary channel to get out to. Like, if you're sitting and you're an FA and you have 150 households to call, you're not doing that every day, right? That was the old model. That isn't the new model. And honestly, even our new model isn't as new as it should be. So email is absolutely the fastest way to get out to a mass set of people. In the initial runs of our Next Best Action, we didn't have enough attribution back to really sort our actions from anything more than this one affects 120 of your households, this one affects 80 of your households, this one affects 40 of your households. But as we build these models and develop them, and as we get more data in, those now sort, this affects 2 people in your book. This affects 50 people in your book. This affects 120 people in your book. So we order now purely on the priority of the idea and the impact of that idea for the person. And I know people talk about this all the time. Birthday messages are important. I'm not kidding. And if you actually are an FA and you don't get that birthday to that top of the list, you can't send out happy birthday tomorrow. It has to go out today. So it's an interesting way of prioritizing when we talk about life events, where it's not just about financial ideas, right? Some financial ideas can wait, some can't. Sometimes we're selling out of inventory, and those are priority ideas. Sometimes we're not. So all of these things affect how the priority sorts what is next and what is best for the FA and for their clients. And I want to be clear, it isn't just about our clients. We prioritize first by our clients and what they need, and then we prioritize what our FAs will do with them. And I think that's also important to understand, because some FAs, they've never sold a piece of fixed income. They're not they don't know that product. They have specialists that they work with, just like the slide where I showed all the specialists. If fixed income is important for our clients, we will tell them, but we'll actually recommend that they actually talk with specialists, and we get specialists with those clients, that the FA actually won't send emails about that, because they're not going to deal with that. They'll actually bring in specialists as well. So moving on to the explainability portion, Jeff Hinton is a Google guy in Canada. One place where I do have technical expertise that's relevant is whether regulators should insist that you explain your AI, how your AI systems work. I think that would be a complete disaster. But Jeff doesn't actually work in a regulated business the way we do, or the way I do, the way everyone else probably in this room does. So it's not actually a fair answer for us. And by the way, the Terminator eyes is totally on purpose. So just playing with my Terminator theme. We've been looking all the way at explainable AI. We look at Lime. We are looking at the models built on interoperability. We're not really looking at Retain. Retain is developed to help doctors, but we know that's out there. But we have our eye on the future models that we believe will have much more explainability. I mean, the whole notion that came out in 2018 where the Googlers basically said AI is alchemy, a lot of AI is alchemy, right? There's a lot of black box that goes here, right? Why this idea is more important than that idea is absolutely part of it. And those aren't good answers for regulators. Those aren't good answers for our FAs. Those aren't good answers for our clients. So we've taken and advanced our NBA into breaking it down into genomic values, right? So a genomic value, basically, I like to think of them almost as micromodels running against the entire client. And this basically takes one client and breaks them down into 1,000 little pieces in a knowledge graph that we can traverse. So, okay, so I'm a client and I like, let's say, securities, and I like equities, and I like tech, and I like Google, right? So it's a nested tree of events that can be stored up against me so that anyone can traverse this. We don't actually, by the way, distribute this yet. This is something that is currently, we're building this year. We don't need this, except when we get to explainability, when we get to traversability, when we get to wanting our risk officers to understand why certain ideas came to a top. We think that this is a very useful tool to apply back to how our models work. And these will get used in our models as we develop them further. So these are absolutely tangible events on what our clients become and how they break down. So, so we use machine learning to actually break down exactly what the people are interested in, and then we apply the business ideas to marry our producer and consumers together, creating a collaborative filtering relationship. And then I think it's really important to know how we all do this, and at Morgan Stanley, how we actually share this out. You know, we hired a guy from Google to run our chief data scientist for one of our divisions. He was talking to me the other day, and he was asking me, like, how does this all work? How do you partner with your business? And I'm from Google, and I had access to everything at Google, but I'm at Morgan Stanley now, and I can't do anything without technology. And yeah, I'm in technology, so I don't like being the barrier. But he comes to talk to me because I'm not going to say we solved this problem, but we've made this problem more tangible for people, for the data scientists, for the businesses. So we have this Venn diagram which shows the businesses, the data scientists and analysts, and the technologists all working together, really doing their own thing, but also intersecting in various parts. We do this through a series of, we have obviously our dev environments. The business doesn't get to go there. It would be useless for them to go there, but that's where we test things. But what we did is we created sandbox environments for them to be able to test out. And the sandbox environments are things that we distribute in through the business channel and through the data science channel so that they can actually add new data sources, they can actually take the system down, they can run very deep and strong models against it. These sandboxes, they run in cloud-like environments right now. They're absolutely going to be some of the first pieces that we actually just move right up to the cloud to allow them to build and destroy and use. The sandbox process that we've created is something that we are exporting across Morgan Stanley to use and to democratize our AIs in such a way where we can allow our fraud department to run any query they want. It's an interesting dilemma that we have because we're trying, when something's production, we can make a business decision out of it. When something's in a sandbox, can you make a business decision out of it? Well, if you find a piece of fraud in the sandbox, you got to act on it, right? So the sandbox is some middle ground between what's prod and what's not. And it works fabulously for our businesses and for our data scientists where they can actually go in and out of that. And just to be clear, data scientists, they exist inside the business, they exist on their own, and they exist in my organization. They exist in all three places, but I treat them as sort of their own circle, their own unit, because their needs they're not similar to the needs of the other developers in the organization. Their needs are very unique, and it's those unique needs that we actually create a service for them where they can actually come into their own space. So just in conclusion, I come back to the Terminator. I come back to a quote in Terminator 2, which is, I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do. I use this one only because our FAs know how to cry. They know the empathy. They know how to bring empathy to these decisions. And it's really our machines that actually bring the knowledge, and it's our FAs that actually bring the empathy. Thank you very much. I can stay for questions.
Do we have any questions? All right, looks like you covered it all.
Great.
Oh.
One.
Oh.
About the empathy, so how do you get your team to feel and realize the empathy that the frontline people experience?
Meaning, like the developers?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's not our job. Our job isn't to have the empathy. We're not frontline to the clients. So the frontline actually is the FAs. The FAs bring that empathy. So they're the ones that are relationship trained. They build their business on that relationship with the client. So there's no empathy built into our models. It's just the knowledge part. It's actually the human part that brings the empathy. That is the FA with the relationship with the clients. So, sure.
Thinking about the new entrants like Tencent, Alibaba, Google, Apple, and a lot of kind of startups, how do you can extract value? Don't think about data, because this is insight. You build a whole new model of finance, of banking. And how do you deal with these new insights?
Insights from Alibaba, for example, or?
Let's talk about optimization.
Yeah.
Doing the same in a better way.
Yeah.
But this is what I saw in the major of this presentation.
Yeah.
Doing better the same way. But we are looking for a new scenario that we're doing right now with Amazon Money. There are different kind of monetizations, okay, that will really disrupt the way banking, finance do business. And
So We absolutely have plenty of arms inside Morgan Stanley that are looking at disruptive technologies. So I sit in wealth management. We have a robo-advice system, right? The robo-advice system, though, that anyone's running, whether it's Betterment or all of them are based off of Monte Carlo models, right? They're not actually, that's not actually new tech for us, and that's not they are disruptive because millennials like dealing directly with a way of depositing money and having it trade and watching it, right? It's not like they want a relationship with an FA, right? But when we look at sort of the next level of disruption for our FAs, I can say that there will be a portion of our actions that we will automate. And that will go out and we'll say that BFA is not covering this book that well. This household is not covered that well. We'll either pull it from the FA or we'll auto cover it with MBA. We'll send out things automatically. There isn't any circumstance right now where we do an automated distribution, but as we go further into our prospecting side, we'll probably create a lot more automation there to help capture client and to help bring them into the organization. But it all comes back to that empathy question, right? We still want a person managing the relationship. We think that that's really important. So even in Morgan Stanley's launching new strategies right now, we purchased a company called Solium in the springtime. We're building a connection with our client base that comes from where they work. So connecting up with their stock plan systems and everything else and providing advice directly where they are. Some of those people are going to be just starting out in their careers. Some of those people are going to be C-level executives. But that connection we think is really important because that's where they build their wealth, and that's where we think we can help and educate and provide advice around them. So when you get into sort of disruptive techs, in the wealth business, we have a series of things that we're looking at to provide service offerings, but we still think that there's a real core value in providing human advice at all times, right? Even in deciphering what the machine's saying sometimes.
Awesome.
Oh, sorry, just one question. What's your stance on proprietary technology versus external sourcing?
That's a good question. So I used a Salesforce slide, right? So we partner with a lot of vendors for everything that we can. But when we get into machine learning, much of it comes from our data. Has to come from our data. Has to come from what we're tracking, right? So if I were to talk about something like Einstein, which is a Salesforce offering of an AI, we don't find it very valuable because it doesn't have our data in it. And we could give it our data, but we're unlikely to do that. There's a lot of barriers in how we would want to share that sort of thing. So we're heavily invested in data science tools, and we are finding the growth of those tooling to be incredible. And so, but those are all pointed towards our own data sources. And whether we use TensorFlow or other cloud services to actually run the models, we will. But I will also tell you, we're not at Google-sized data. No financial institution really is, right? We're not at Facebook or Google-sized data. We affectionately call our data little big data. So we think the difference between like a Google, which is very broad and very wide sets of data, we have very narrow but very deep sets of data, and that's where we apply our machine learning.
Thank you so much. So you can definitely continue the conversation, but I do want to let everyone know that we're officially on a break until 11:15. So when you come back, the room will be split into two parts. Just like yesterday, we'll be on this side